funny to think that the first movie I review in this set is a serious World War I film told from the Germans' perspective, and now we have a World War II film that is a comedy based on the peacetime draft of 1940.
Come on now, that's right.
Buck Privates is from 1941 and stars one of the best comedy duos of all time, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, who play two guys who live a life selling ties on the street. One day they're being chased by the cops, so they decide to hide in a movie theater, which is actually being used as an army recruitment center to basically get people to enlist in World War II. And through a series of events, they accidentally enlist and become soldiers. Also, there's a subplot involving two friends who join the army, with one of them being a playboy who is trying to do everything he can to get out of active service. And they both also have the hots for a camp hostess played by Jane Frazee. This is honestly the least interesting part of the entire movie, and for some reason it takes up just as much screen time, if not more, than the scenes with Abbott and Costello in it. Now, back in my Dracula review, I mentioned that studios specified in a specific type of genre during this time period. That was the 1930s, and that applies for 1940s also. But during this time period as well, they had actors under contract, meaning that these actors had to make a specific amount of movies for that said studio. And one of the groups that was under contract by them was Abbott and Costello. They are one of the greatest comedy duos that ever lived, and probably their most famous skit is the Who's on First skit. Buck Privates was their first feature film during their contract with Universal, and it was made to capitalize on the peacetime draft, which by this point my review's turning into a history lesson, but if you ever got the draft back then, you were forced to go to war. I'm grateful that does not exist anymore. Now, the only thing I've seen up until this point was Who's on First, so this is a bigger exposure to Abbott and Costello than that little skit was. But this movie's funny. It's got those moments of dialogue that made Who's on First so popular, and it's also got some slapstick, mainly from Costello. He steals the whole show, and whether it's from slapstick or comedic dialogue, he always succeeds in making me either smile or laugh. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a subplot involving two soldiers who are friends and have the hots for one of the camp hostesses, which is so uninteresting that it really slows the movie down and almost made me lose interest. But then Abbott and Costello would come back in, have scenes that would pick the movie up again, and there you go. But this movie I thought was pretty funny. It's the first of 3 service movies that Abbott and Costello would do, the second one being in the Navy, don't even make a Village People joke, and Keep 'em Flying. It also launched the duo's film career, and it was, again, bigger exposure to how Abbott and Costello function, aside from just watching Who's on First. This movie also showed me where the song Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy came from, that is performed by the Andrews Sisters, who would appear in 2 other films with Abbott and Costello. An interesting fact about this movie before I give my rating is that when Japan got a hold of this movie, it was during World War II, and they used it as propaganda to show how basically stupid our troops were. And I have no joke into that. I'm going to avoid a joke. I'll just leave it at that. So I would say the movie is worth seeing in your lifetime. It's pretty funny. It's got, again, those clever dialogue moments and a lot of slapstick. The subplot with the 2 soldiers is so uninteresting, but Abbott and Costello always bring it up. And that's my review for Buck Privates. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the movie. Subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. You can check out my other channel, AlexG8462. You can follow me on Twitter at AlexG8462. Follow me on Instagram at TheRealMrRobinson. And go like my Facebook page, /TheCinemasMrRobinson. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and remember to know it before you see it. This has been The Cinemas of Mr. Robinson, and I'll see you guys later.